You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to A Scary Good Time, everybody. It's those guys, Lester and Steven, the Horror Ramblings podcast. I feel like, I got to come up with something more creative, but I don't know. My brain's a little jumbled because I'm so excited about this episode. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to tell the people why, Steven? Because I know you have something beautiful written.
Well, certainly, because returning to the hallowed halls of horror is a multi-talented man whose exploits now expand into podcasting. He's coming into our turf. I have to get a little defensive. Now, every week you can hear him chatting about a plethora of different topics with his co-host Yuki Nakamura on Yuki and John's Podcast Buffet. Now, that is very hard for me to say without singing it because I do every week. And you can also catch him on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, which kicks off its 5th season starting April 21st on Shudder. Please welcome back one of only 2 people I know that eat chicken and waffles wrong, John Brennan.
Wow, a lot of challenges in that opening. I got to address a couple of them. Podcasting, if you got a phone and you just have the voice memos, you could podcast. Anybody's allowed to podcast.
Sure.
I mean, the real reason I'm doing the podcast is because Yuki Nakamura is just such an interesting guy, and we have these insane conversations. So I say, why not at least get him on record, put him out there? A lot of the stuff that I'm doing is biographical stuff about Yuki, his celebrity stories, trying to get clues as to his childhood. He's just a fascinating guy, and the well is endless. The information that he comes up with, or his theories and philosophies on life, are fascinating. And I just feel like it's a great thing to document because he doesn't talk a lot in other realms. And when he comes onto the podcast buffet or the Patreon buffet, he opens up and it's an amazing time.
I can tell that he has some reservations at times because it seems like every time you show him something that he's just not interested in talking about, he refuses.
Oh, he just shuts it down. That's the best part, is like he just doesn't want to talk about a certain topic. He won't even play along and do some fun. He wants to change the subject and get onto something that interests him, which is great. I'm fine with it. So I've learned to read the room when Yuki's when he's not feeling it.
A lot of, like you said, he's a very fascinating individual. That's one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to join in, because when I got into the Patreon buffet, I was like, all right, well, let's see what this is all about. And then just immediately the stories, I'm like, I'm hooked. I've got to hear more of this. I don't give a damn what it is. I just want to hear him tell a story because everything is fascinating. It doesn't have to be about a celebrity.
No.
It could just be a random story. The McDonald's story still tickles my funny bone every time.
Oh my God, it's so funny, and because Yuki managed, he went to Hamburger University, and he managed a McDonald's in Japan. That was what he did before he came to America, and he has all these stories about working. I want to do like a sex comedy with Yuki as the star in Hamburger University.
That would be awesome.
Bring it back to the Porky's, Vice Academy era.
So I guess.
Wait. One more thing I want to address. I don't want to cut you off, but eating chicken and waffles together just doesn't make sense to me. I like to have the plate of the chicken and the plate of the waffles and go back and forth. I don't want to mix them up. I don't know.
You've got to chime in because your opinion has not come into play here.
Oh man,
because we had this discussion on Twitter.
You're hitting me with a difficult one here because
follow your heart, man.
I have had chicken and waffles several different ways. I have had chicken and waffles in sandwich form, and I love them together in sandwich form.
White Castle has a great chicken and waffles. That makes sense to me if it comes in a little thing and it's a slider or whatever.
Yeah, that I like, but when I just get a pile of chicken and a pile of waffles, I don't know if it's just me thinking, well, that's because chicken to me, that's not breakfast food. Waffles is breakfast food. So
Yeah.
if it's in sandwich form, I'll eat just about anything, I guess. I better not say that because that could come off really bad.
Good.
Yeah, don't challenge.
But yeah, no, I'm on the fence either way. Like, if you give me chicken and waffles in sandwich form, I will devour that shit. But
Okay.
separate, yeah, if it's presented to me in two separate piles, I'm probably not going to mix it. I
Yeah,
might make a
thank you.
sandwich.
Okay,
I
that's
mean, you
all I'm
never know.
saying. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will eat it my way. You can eat it your way. It doesn't matter.
It's also sometimes, however, the wind blows. If I'm feeling like combining things that day and getting it down faster, why not? Why not?
Why not?
Oh, real quick, I want to ask you something, John. Just
Yeah.
this randomly popped into my head. It has to do with last week's episode, actually. The new Evil Dead film.
Mm.
What do you think?
Oh,
From the trailer?
I can't wait. I was offered the other day a great independent filmmaker, Rocco Zevin. Sorry, I always say his name wrong. Rocco Zevenberg, I believe. He's gonna kill me if I don't get it right. I'll look it up on IMDb. But he made a movie called I Need You Dead. He offered me free tickets to a screening, and I had already scheduled a podcast. So it was I didn't want to cancel on those guys, and I felt really bad. So I would have gone to see it already. So I'm waiting though when it comes out for real.
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm all the way in. I don't care if it's the goofy Evil Dead or the scary Evil Dead. Just give me Evil Dead. I'm in the universe. I watched the show. I love it. I think it's great.
And see, we touched on that last week about it. Just something about Evil Dead, whether it's goofy or you get the more sinister, it's fantastic. The remake they did, which I feel is just sort of a one-off story that they did, a few years back. I absolutely loved it, and those are the vibes I get from this. So
yeah, I think that one was very creepy. It had really, really messed up moments, cutting open her own tongue and all that stuff. Although, here's a question: she cuts open her own tongue, and then when the demon leaves her tongue's back to normal.
Holy shit, good point.
Your body should be mutilated if you do
Yeah.
something to your body, because Ash cuts off his hand and then he's like left like that forever. It doesn't grow back. I don't know. I didn't like that.
that's a good point. No, that is a good point. That is.
Did she cut off a limb?
There's a part where she's like the main girl. She takes her tongue and she cuts it in half.
Didn't she cut off a limb too?
Oh no, she does that too.
She does lose her hand, at the end, because I think she takes like.
Okay, well that shit didn't grow back, so you got a valid point.
Because when she's the full blown demon, she's like back to normal. I don't know. She gets back to normal.
I wonder if the demon was like possessing her and it knew that it needed her, so it healed her. Like I know I might be
that's
reaching
in the that's in the novelization. We got
sure
might be reaching deep here, but I speaking of Evil Dead, just real quick, I'm sorry to get off topic, but I have to get your opinion on this too, because we talked about this last week too. In that remake, there's a scene that made me chuckle, and I thought, I'm going to hell for this. And like Steven said, there's probably a lot of people that found it funny. It's the scene where there's it's a blonde girl, and you see like the veins start to go up her arm, like it's possessing her, and she takes an electric knife and she's cutting into her arm. Well, she looks at her boyfriend, like he comes into the room or something, and it's just hanging, like by just a couple little tendons. And she's like, I cut it out. And then her arm falls off. I chuckled so hard in the movie theater, and I thought, I'm going to hell for this, but I don't care.
Oh, why do you go to the Evil Dead movies but to laugh at the gore? I mean, that's half the fun, right? Yeah,
I'm glad you get it.
That's what they wanted. They wanted
Certainly.
to do the Three Stooges in horror, essentially.
This is why I love when you're on the show, because everything you just said was brought up in our conversation last week. And it's so nice to know that we're on the same page.
There you go, same wavelength. And the guy's name is Rocco Zevenbergen. Great movie. I Need You Dead. Everybody go check it out.
Locked in.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring up one little piece of news before we get into our topic, because it kind of sort of is related in some fashion, or at least common threads. So I just read today, a few hours ago, that Radio Silence, which is kind of the production company that has been responsible for Scream 5, Scream 6, and then Ready or Not, which is a solid movie if you've never seen it. They're developing a Dracula's Daughter remake But understandably, this is very early days, so I'm trying to understand what the basic plot was. But it was like her and a bunch of friends get kidnapped, but the kidnappers don't know she's Dracula's daughter.
Great.
So-
I think that's a great. I would watch that movie. Absolutely.
That was actually part of the breakdown that they were talking about. Is Universal is now doing these odd kind of reimagining, kind of like Renfield. That's something I'm looking forward to because it looks interesting.
So very
It's
much.
good.
They said in the vein of The Invisible Man, Lee Whannell's Invisible Man, they're approaching a lot of these projects as tell me something you can do to provide a unique take on the monster's lore and maybe a fresh new direction. When I heard kidnapping, don't know it's Dracula's daughter, boom, sure, I'm in.
It's
Why
Taken
not?
with Dracula. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. Great idea. Great idea. I mean, I say make anything that sounds good like that, even if it's make the Universal monsters a thing again. Let's just do it. Let's get them all out there. I mean, these things are just as important as Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. We have 13 Freddy Krueger. No, wait, 13. What? We're about to have 13 Jasons, right?
Right.
Friday the 13th. We have what? 11 Halloweens.
Somewhere in that realm, yeah.
Yeah, let's resurrect it. Let's keep going. Let's do every year. We'll have a Dracula movie, a Hellraiser movie. Just give us all the characters.
Sure.
And
Don't put them in a vault.
And I applaud the studio for going in a direction that a lot of people probably wouldn't have thought of, because you love these characters, but how many times can we just keep remaking the same story?
Yeah, just do it.
That's
do
a problem
the weirdest
to me.
shit and let it. If it sucks, people will say it sucks, and then you regroup and you say, "All right, we'll cast the new person as." I mean, how many times have they recast Batman? We've had so many great Draculas. Just keep doing new Draculas. Let everybody play Dracula. Peter Falk, if he was still alive, he should be fucking Dracula. Let everybody do it.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Anyway,
you know what I would like to see, just real quick, just while we're on the subject, Tommy Wiseau as Dracula. Let's just,
oh my God, do it! Yeah,
let's make that happen.
Didn't he do a thing where he was the Joker for like a joke?
Yeah.
Let's do a real movie where he's the Joker for it. Why not? Just do it. Give him $100,000, license the character to him, and see how good it could be. Just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing a new movie now. What is something about a shark?
Big Shark.
Big Shark, yeah.
I'd rather see him play like, the shark thing is fine, and maybe it's fine. I just would rather see like him do another character study,
Yeah.
Not because if he's in on the joke, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him as Van Helsing. As weird as that sounds.
Now that would be good. Van Helsing and Peter Falk as Dracula. That would be the best Dracula movie ever.
We're going to have to write this down. This is a sketch waiting to happen.
We'll deep fake Peter Falk as Dracula. Tommy Wiseau's Van Helsing. This shit will sell like hotcakes.
Certainly.
I mean, we got Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and I don't know. Renfield excites me. Like, I'm excited for it. Very much so.
See, and this is exactly why I'm kind of glad their dark universe bullshit failed so spectacularly, because they were on that bandwagon of every other studio saying, we got to do what Marvel's doing. We got to tie it all in and just everything and complicate it.
Too much action, not enough horror, or not enough, I don't know, existentialism. It was too flashy, Yeah, it was okay. I mean, there was one or two sequences in The Mummy that I thought was all right, and I thought the idea of him, like Tom Cruise getting possessed, they could have capitalized on that a little better. Like,
sure,
I wanted to see more evil Tom Cruise and not I don't know, him jumping on a plane again.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem with most modern horror is they've gotten away from the grittiness of it. They want to make it too clean, too pristine.
Sure.
Give me some shaky camera angles. Give me a little bit of gritty looks. That's why 80s horror is such an iconic thing. There's just this grittiness and realism to it that just it goes through into the audience and really just hits them somewhere, because you know it's not real what you're watching, but that grittiness brings it to a certain level of reality for you. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's do 1 billion werewolf movies. Let's do 1 billion. Let's just keep going. Don't stop. Universal, get back on track.
I would like to see a new Wolfman movie. Or hell no, better yet, a fucking Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. Like, where's his remake?
On it throughout the years, and it just never gets off the ground. And then Guillermo del Toro basically did his own version with The Shape of Water, which is the second greatest bestiality love story ever told, after Howard the Duck, which will always be the first greatest bestiality love story ever told. Thank you, George Lucas.
Cannot argue with that.
Nothing like duck tits. Just gonna put that out there.
I mean, you talk about growing up at an early age, that'll fuck with you pretty hard.
What
it's like ducks have tits?
What a bizarre choice. And that should be the name of this episode. Nothing like duck tits. I mean, forget freaks. We don't need to talk about freaks. Just talk about, I mean, seriously, bizarre. You did the Star Wars thing. You changed the world. And then you say, all right, I love this little comic. Let's make this. And then it turns out to be what it is, which, by the way, though, there are some great scenes in there. Jeffrey Jones, even though he became a problematic person much later on by photographing young boys, he still does a great performance in that movie as that villain, the makeup, and then the tree guy. It's the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So it's actually really interesting. But then George Lucas put in the duck and had a love scene between Leah Thompson and a duck. I mean, what the fuck was that all about?
It's hard I don't know. I think he was going through a period in his life where it was just he was going through some shit. Let's just put it that way, because I don't know what else you could say to justify that.
He just needed his bill rubbed the right way. That's all.
I mean, the dude has been threatening to make experimental films for years. I want to see those. I don't want him to be retired anymore. I want him to go back to the George Lucas that was tinkering around in a garage or in a small soundstage, cap his budget at like $1 million and see what the fuck he'd do.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what he would do, because THX 1138 is great. It's really great, and it's groundbreaking. And I would like to see him return to that form of filmmaking. It'd be amazing.
I've always said he's an idea man. He's got great ideas. He may not necessarily know what to do with them on camera. Not to say that he's never done anything good on camera, because obviously, yes, he has. But it's like, as you said, as the budgets got ballooned and he just kind of went crazy, it's like, whoa. Slow your shit, man. Come on back.
He's got to do like a Dogma 95, but for George Lucas. He's got to set caps on budgets. He's got to set rules for himself. What would George Lucas do if he can only use natural lighting? Or only have 2 composite shots in a film, right? It's just whatever. Add all these rules for him and then see what he does. It would be sick.
I think he would do great.
Yeah,
I really do.
And I just to chime in, piggyback on that just real quick. It's the same thing that I've been hearing with the latest Avatar film. They had this huge budget. They focused on making it look as beautiful as they possibly could, but the story struggled for it.
I haven't seen it yet, so it's set. I'm gonna see it on TV.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna see it in the theater, so whatever.
But that's a great topic of discussion. It's like there's so many filmmakers out there that make these wonderful, just beautiful masterpieces, and it seems like more recently it's been the low budget indie films that are really striking a chord with people. You get into a bigger budget and it's like, oh, well, we'll just throw money at everything. We'll make it bright and shiny for the audience and we'll just go from there. Look at the Oscars this year. Everything Everywhere All at Once. That film did not have a huge budget. It had very limited staff to do all of the editing and everything. It's an amazing film. And I think it's because they knew what they had to work with. They had a limited budget, and they said, you know what? We've got a limited budget. Let's make this story as great as we possibly can. And I think all these big directors that have these huge budgets, I think they forget that sometimes. Like, we can't just throw money at it. We have to come up with a story. We have to make it special. So
yeah, I think people get lost in the idea when you have unlimited budget. They get lost in the fact that the story still needs to be great and the themes and all that stuff, and they just get lost in like the background. Oh, let's make sure that the architecture is structurally sound for the 1800s. They start to get into that realm instead of saying, well, was the script right?
And, just on one more side note, I'm sorry to sidetrack here, but I just went to Horror Hound a few weekends ago, met the writer and director of Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Super nice guy. I did not realize just how much he actually does on that film. He does everything, like editing, filming, the writing. He does the makeup.
Yeah.
This is his baby. This film is, and he doesn't have a huge budget, but Terrifier 2 tore it up at the movie theater.
Yeah, and for like $250,000, which is what the reported budget is, you have to do everything. I mean, it's almost like, yeah, you can hire certain people who are really good in the department heads, but at that budget level, if you're not thrifty and you're not creative and you're not doing it yourself, you almost can't do it. So yeah, it's amazing that he did it and he killed at the box office. Good for him.
The results of that film show just what you can do if you actually put in the time and the energy and you don't just throw money at the problem.
Right.
You know, he creatively came up with solutions. He creatively told these stories, and it ended up being a fantastic film. I don't know if you've seen Terrifier 2 or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
people were grumbling online because it was taking so long. And the reason
Yeah.
it took so long, obviously, is because they really made it work. They could have shit out a sequel in a year and had it just be, you know, either on par with the first or a little bit less because they rushed it. No, they took the time. They made it look good. They got the gore really good. Yeah, it's great.
And it was fantastic when we were there. Some people ahead of us were asking him, "When's Terrifier 3 coming out?" And his response was fantastic. He said, "I'm actually writing it right now." He's like, "But I like to take my time because it's special to me." And that just you can see when someone does work that is special to them, especially in cinema.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it more enjoyable for the audience. So
hell yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into today's feature because I feel like this was a passion project that kind of got bum-fucked by the studio, but we'll get into all that. So we're talking about 1932's Freaks, directed by Todd Browning, probably best known for this and the 1931 Dracula film, the original Universal classic. So I guess we can start by asking everyone's impressions of the film, what you like when you first saw it, and things like that. So John, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure. I love this movie. I saw it probably in college for the first time, and it blew my mind that a movie in the 30s can be so impactful and have these things. And I guess that's before I learned what pre-code was and whatever. So I just think that there are images in this movie that still haven't been, the heights of them have not been reached a lot in film because it was so threadbare, but it was like they really spotlighted these people who had these disabilities and everything and made them the stars. But they make it that they're not the villains. The villains
Right.
are the humans who are supposedly normal, who treat the freaks like shit, and they are fucking evil. They're evil inside, even though the freaks, you know, people think that they look weird or whatever. They act mostly nice and good, and even though the other guy, the main guy's cheating on his wife for the woman, you know, if they're not the villains, they are the heroes, and I think that what's scary about it is I guess we could spoil a whatever
Sure, go ahead.
movie made from the 30s.
We're spoiling everything.
Yeah, but what the frightening thing is that when they change the human beings into freaks at the end, and the people are looking at them, you know, not only are they evil on the inside, but now they have to live the life of the people that they shunned, is just a fucking crazy, horrific ending. And it's sad that it was, I guess, ahead of its time and that the studio fucked with it. They cut maybe a half hour out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Browning's career was ruined because of it. I mean, the dude made a couple of masterpieces before that. You know, he made, obviously, you said Dracula. He did this movie, The Unholy Three, that my girlfriend keeps, my girlfriend Liz Shack, great filmmaker in her own right, she's like, you have to watch The Unholy Three, and I just haven't done it yet, but I did watch The Unknown, which is a silent film that Lon Chaney stars in, and I recommend that movie. It's the best silent film I've ever seen, directed by Tom Browning. Also, it has to deal with the circus and stuff. And oddly enough, this was supposed to be a starring vehicle for Lon Chaney. And it just, the stars didn't align. I don't know who he was going to play. Maybe the main, the guy who like tries to destroy the freaks and steal the money from him. But recently I saw this on the big screen at Lincoln Center, and it was a packed house. So seeing it on 35 millimeter with a packed, it was just like transcendent. It was almost like I had never seen the movie before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've yet to have an opportunity to watch something like this on the big screen, but a similar experience was actually getting to see the original Godzilla film, the Japanese version, which I'd never seen before on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like they were doing some special tour around to local independent theaters, and as soon as I found out about it, I was like, I gotta go because I've never seen it, or at least that version of it. And yeah, it was magical because it was like seeing this movie that I'm familiar with, but not seeing it for the first time.
Yeah,
as
it
well.
changes it when you're not able to look at your phone or talk to the people next to you, and it's just this movie. It's basically church, and they're zooming these images into your brain and the big screen. It changes the film because you notice things that you would never notice at home if you're distracted, if you pause.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I've seen the last couple of years, I've seen so many masterpieces. Night of the Hunter on the big screen. I Walked with a Zombie. 2001, Lawrence of Arabia. I actually did that. That was it wasn't supposed to be a double feature, but I watched both in a row at the Museum of the Moving Image. Yeah, I don't necessarily recommend it if you don't have water. You could die of dehydration, especially looking at the desert scenes in Lawrence of Arabia. But I've been trying to seek out as many of the older classics as possible on the big screen because they really do change the whole experience.
Yeah, and I've got to give it to Fathom Events for that kind of stuff too, where they've been re-releasing a lot of these older movies in theaters.
E.T. I saw E.T. With Fathom Events, and it was I cried.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Fathom Events is sick.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of great work. I think the last one I did was the Dawn of the Dead in 3D.
Oh, I saw that too, the 3D one. Holy shit, man.
That was pretty cool.
Another example of how you never experienced that movie before. You get the third dimension, so some of those headshots were amazing, and what a good time at the movies.
Les, what about you? What was your first experience with Freaks?
A few years back, I watched the ending scene of Freaks, and it's weird. I knew this film existed. I didn't know where to find it. I could have Googled it, but I never seemed to have Googled it or anything. And hate me or love me for what I'm about to say, but we watched American Horror Story Freak Show, and they talked about Freaks and how it was inspired by the film. And I watched the ending scene of Freaks before I watched the actual film itself. Fast forward a few years, I watched it on my computer, fell in love with it. I never thought I would hate Hercules and Cleopatra, but this film made me hate Hercules and Cleopatra. And I was rooting for the so-called freaks because they were more human than the humans in this film. And I just honestly, today, I just watched both parts of it to give myself a refresher on it. And even sitting and watching it by myself, wasn't on the big screen, but sitting and watching it by myself, just, God, this film was so far ahead of its time, like you guys said earlier. It kills me because there are so many things that happen in this film that really do relate to today. Because I won't get into it for political, there's a lot of political stuff and cultural stuff and sexual stuff with people these days that people are seen as freaks. And then you find out that the people that are pointing fingers are the worst possible human beings that you can imagine. And I can see why seeing this film on the big screen would be a big thing. And just to say this, everybody get their shots ready. The first, I guess, classic, it wouldn't really be a classic, but the first older film that I actually got to go see in the theater was Nightmare on Elm Street. I got to see it in IMAX with a buddy of mine who took me for my birthday. And I love Nightmare on Elm Street. It's my favorite film series of all time. Everybody knows this.
If they don't, there's a problem.
Yes, but
I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, seeing it on the big screen was life-changing. I can see why back when that film came out, it was such a big deal to people. And I can only imagine how big of a deal Freaks would have been to people, because I'll be honest, it made me feel uncomfortable at times, but it wasn't because of the so-called freaks in it. It was because of the way that everyone was treating them. I didn't feel creeped out by any of them. I was impressed by a lot of them, because of the fact that they were being labeled, they were being treated like crap, let's be honest. They were being treated terrible in this film, but they went on and, they took everything in stride. And I'm terrible with character names, but the characters that actually were there for them, that made me respect them even more because they didn't look at them like they were freaks. They treated them like everyone else. And I think at the end of the day, that's the thing about this film, at least to me, that makes this film something that you could watch at any point in time. You could watch this film 20 years from now and still go, gosh, this relates to today. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Don't treat people like they're freaks. If you treat everyone like they're your equals, then there's not so much trouble. And this is one of those films where I'm glad that they didn't just kill them at the end. I'm glad that they were like, you want to call us freaks, we'll make you freaks because you guys are ugly on the inside. We're gonna make you the same ugly that you think we are on the outside. And it's a way of getting even, but I don't think it's something that's not justified. I think it's completely justified. So
yeah, this here on the Wikipedia page, this guy Andrew Saris, he was a film critic. He said Freaks is one of the most compassionate films ever made. So I mean, it really kind of is. It's like and some of the main crew there had good lives. They the main the ones that were married, the two main ones.
Oh yeah,
they were brother and sister in real life.
Yeah.
And they had a traveling thing that they used to do, and they used to make a lot of money just going around and performing and all that sort of stuff. The one that has no arms and no legs had 10 kids.
Wow.
Can you imagine? And lived a pretty long life up until its mid-60s or so. There's a great documentary on YouTube that goes into the lives of all the main characters.
I think I saw that. I think I was going to look into that too. Yeah.
It's good. It tells about the sisters. They were both married, the conjoined twins. They both had husbands.
Which, I've got to ask, because this was a moment in the movie that just kind of, as you watch it, you think about it like long term. So you had, who was it? Daisy and Violet were their names. And one was married. Yeah. And then the other one had to live with them.
Yeah.
But then she gets engaged. And they're just like, you have to come over and see us sometime. And like, wait a second, how the fuck is that gonna...
That's the funniest scene in the movie. Yeah. It's like, come by and visit. Oh, you come by and visit. It's like, motherfucker, you guys are going to be sleeping together in a couple of
Yeah, exactly. Something's not adding up here.
Oh, and there's a lot of humor in this movie. That's the other thing about it. It's very funny scenes. Like the part where the guy is, I don't even know why this psych gag is in the movie. He's in a bathtub, he has no shirt on, and he looks like he's scrubbing himself.
Yeah.
And somebody's talking to him, and then all of a sudden he slips out the bottom and there's no water in it. He's just like fixing I guess a prop or something. It was just
he's putting wheels on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird psych gag, but it's great. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. I think the Roscoe, I can't remember what exactly he did. He was just the stuttering man, and the one that was married to the
one of the conjoined twins.
One of the conjoined twins. His Pahui, you always use that as an excuse, an alibi. Yeah. Every time she say, "I gotta go," yeah. I got a kick out of that. About the second time he said it, I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty good."
Yeah, that's like a Looney Tunes bit. Like it's just like so much odd humor in this. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I got really emotional at the one part where they're playing the three ones that look alike. They call them pinheads.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And the two of the main two of like the outside characters come through, and they're like, the woman who's handling them is like, oh, they're just children. They just want to play. And and I started to get so emotional that like they couldn't like go out in the sunlight without being judged or bothered. And oh my God.
That was actually something we were kind of discussing at one point off mic, was thinking about the time in which this movie came out. Now, when we think horror, at least what we're kind of programmed to think of as horror today, might not necessarily fit into what people considered horror back then. But if you think of the time frame, we're talking 1932, people had never seen anything like this before. And the people who were freaking out were probably the exact same people who would be treating, or they would be those people treating them like shit. So they would be Hercules, they would be Venus, but they act like it's their sensibilities that were being, how dare you put this on screen and subject me to this? It was like, first of all, no one told you to come here. Secondly, fuck you for hating people for something they can't help.
Yeah.
So I honestly feel like a lot of the bans, because I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but this film was banned, in the United States and mainly in the UK up until 1963. And they finally got, I think it was an X rating in 1963, which again, still bizarre, just doesn't add up, but whatever.
Damn.
And even in the US, I even found this out, which is bizarre because I couldn't find specifics. It was just kind of a vague. It was repealed in the US, so now it was kind of legal, but there were certain states where it technically was never taken care of, so it's technically still illegal to view it in those states.
You're kidding me, still?
That's
insane.
Wow.
Because it's one of those things that has just kind of gone under the radar. It's like it got repealed, but people were like, and then they just forgot about it. So technically speaking, it would still be illegal in certain states to view. But I think it's just people don't give a shit. It's just like,
at this point, yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
It doesn't matter.
Still very naughty if you do it in Missouri.
Right. Which you'd think it would be some state like that would just be really the South. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised. But no, it's just a lot of the way it was kind of perceived at the time. I can see why it could be considered horror. And much like how we view Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman today, it's not scary to us in that sense, but we are fans of it because we enjoy that type of movie. And I feel like this kind of definitely fits in that same category. And when it came to how it was actually perceived by the people, it seemed that as far as I don't even like calling them freaks. That's another thing. Like you said, the pinheads, I even hated calling them pinheads because I don't know what to call it.
That's what they call them back in the day,
Yeah.
So it's hard to describe without using the terminology that they used for them back then. It's because what are you supposed to say now? I mean,
yeah,
I haven't been on the forums lately.
No, now
I know the general terms. You're not supposed to say certain things.
Now I know that
they're different. They're different. Let's just say that.
Now the pinheads condition is called microcephaly, but I don't know how you translate that into a term.
That's not offensive.
It's just, I don't know. I don't want to, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is...
Well, any pinhead is allowed to call me an asshole or a douchebag,
and
I won't get upset. Call me any name that you want. I mean, just like, I know it sucks, but I don't know. Yeah, what did they do in the American Horror Story? Because that was recent. What did they say in that? What would they call?
I don't remember.
It felt like they took some characters out of this film and just slapped them in American Horror Story because they pretty much called them the same thing. They called them freaks, and I don't know. I don't know if you've ever watched.
If it's good enough for Ryan Murphy, it's good enough for me.
I don't know if either one of you have ever watched Freak Show.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch that season, but I've seen clips. Yeah,
it's a wonderful season, and they do really just they refer to them as freaks, and there's even people that call them monsters in the series. But I think there's a reason they do that, I believe. And to me, all real monsters are human. And just like you were mentioning earlier, Stephen, about, the people that were afraid of this film at the time were the people that had issues with people like that. And I think that's what it really boils down to is it's not so much we focus on calling them freaks or monsters in the film. It's that they're people with either disabilities or conditions, but hearing someone else call them a monster really shows what that person is like. And it shows the real monster are people who are closed-minded and things like that. So, I don't know.
Now, I've got to give shout outs to some of the more impressive stuff because you can say what you want if people want to be hateful about it, but there was some pretty impressive shit that happens in this film that it gets me every time. The guy that you mentioned earlier, I think his real name is something like Prince Rodian. He's the guy with no arms and no legs. Lighting that cigarette in his. The fact that they said there was a scene that they cut out that actually showed him roll it. That alone,
oh my God,
I want to see, because
I know
seeing him just flip and do this shit and light the cigarette like it's nothing. How the fuck do you roll it?
It's amazing. I wish I could see that too. There's like 30 something minutes cut out of this movie.
Yeah.
So that's the one that I want. That's the thing that I want to see, is like, because supposedly the end scene is even more extended.
Yeah.
They show them changing the woman into basically a chicken woman. They show them castrating the guy, like, which is also a very funny part where he starts singing with like a castrato in a soprano's voice. It's just so fucking funny. But yeah, that I don't know, how would you roll it? Just, I guess it has to be his tongue and his lips somehow. He doesn't get the cigarette wet with the saliva and gets it in there. I don't know how he would do it.
I don't know either. Like, I was just dumbfounded. At least lighting it is understandable, but rolling it is the part my brain can't fathom.
No. Oh yeah, that there's a lot of stuff in that movie where it's like the guy with the who walks on his two hands and he's just half
now
himself. Oh.
He, like, how mobile he was also impressive, because it was like it didn't even stop him from getting around. He'd go upstairs, run across the room, just like it was just natural.
Yeah.
And tell me, I don't know if it's me, does he not kind of favor Bern Gorman, the actor? Because I was looking at his face and was like, this motherfucker looks like somebody.
Let's see.
And then I see Bern Gorman, and then like his name just pops in my head. I was like, holy shit, that's who he looks like. Or at least to me it does. So maybe you guys have a different opinion.
I'm going to look at Bern Gorman. Okay, he's here.
Yeah.
And, oh my God.
Tell me he doesn't.
Holy shit, you're right.
It's uncanny.
Is it him? It looks exactly like him. Holy shit, Bern Gorman and this guy, you never saw them in a room together in their entire life. I swear to God.
I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, holy shit, that's bizarre. It's freaks.
Yeah.
But I mean, actually, while we're on the subject of that guy, he apparently was the only actor that seemed to support the film after its release. Apparently all the rest of them were not as fond of it. It seemed like the bearded lady was the one that had the most issue with it, which maybe it was because she wasn't in it all that much.
Yeah, there was
wasn't a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see them being upset with it, but I don't know. They were human. It's a very human story, so I don't know if they were upset with the controversy or the movie. Right? You know what I mean? If people had accepted it differently, would they have problems with the movie still? I think it was the way that it was accepted is what they probably had more of a problem with.
Yeah. Now, if you're talking about the 30 minutes that they cut out, I've heard, again, everyone has speculation on what has been cut out. And I even tried to find, and this is really difficult too, because probably all that footage is lost to time, considering we're talking about a 90-year-old movie, and they didn't take care of, film reels like they do today. So it's probably gone, but you have scripts. I know that there was I actually found a website where someone had found like a script treatment that apparently came from the MGM archives. So I'm just taking them at their word. And the website is actually the name of, I think it was the actress that played Cleo. So it's like Olga, what the fuck is her name? OlgaBaklanova.com. If you go over there,
holy shit, I'm going there right after this.
You can apparently find the script synopsis that will fill in the gaps. So if you're ever curious, and that was actually something I wanted to find, because one of the opening shots, you see Hercules and Venus kind of fighting it out, okay? And obviously you can just take it as it is and be like, okay, well, they had a fight and then it's falling out and then she leaves. Well, apparently there was a little nugget in there that makes the scene bigger in a way that you really understand why the fuck she's leaving. And apparently there was a line, or I don't know if it was actually filmed or just cut, but apparently Hercules asked Venus if she would possibly prostitute herself out to a stranger for about a few hundred francs. And that's why she's so pissed. So when you see that moment of her being angry and just yelling, you put that into perspective, you're like, okay, I get it. You know?
Wow.
So little things like that, I feel like were, like, I understand why they were cut back then, but today it just seems so tame and rote that it's ridiculous. And I want to see that in the movie, because that is, I would say that's my only issue with the film, is you can sense where something's removed, and it just moves. I mean, like, what is it, an hour, a little over an hour? So you can
like
feel when
67
things,
minutes or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel when something's missing or something should have been there, and that's definitely one that I remember. I found little things like that to be kind of interesting about what they've been doing. And of course, the castration scene, god damn it.
Oh.
I mean, maybe they didn't show it, obviously, but just knowing.
Well, they probably showed things that were more obvious as to what's happening, you know, and
Right.
Oh, I can only imagine the way they shot it. Or do they show them putting the chicken feathers on the woman and plucking her around? And oh my god,
because it does. It ends so abruptly, like as everything is coming to a head and you're really getting into it. You're like, yes, yes, yes. It just cuts, and you're like, shit.
Yeah,
you know, you just kind of missed out on something.
So sad. I mean, they shouldn't have been such prudes back then, or else we could have the full process.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing, you know. Even if they tried to remake this and add in the things that they cut out, I don't think it would have the same magic that it originally had.
It was actually something I had thought about, and I wanted to kind of get opinions on, was if the right person came along and said, I wanted to do a remake and really stay true to this, would you be on board with it? Or
it's tough.
I think for me, it would depend on who's doing it.
Yeah. David Lynch doing Freaks injected into my veins. Yeah. Give it to me all day.
Now, I feel like if they were going to do a remake, I would want to see it in black and white.
Yeah.
And it would definitely want to see it to be a period piece too. Like, I would want it to take place in the 1930s, because I feel not that human society has gotten more accepting, but I feel like it would work better in that setting versus trying to modernize it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that for me, when I watched this, you can definitely tell that things have been cut. It's still a fantastic film, but there were even scenes in the middle of the movie where it would cut out and then go to the next scene, and I'd be sitting there going, is there going to be a little more context to what just happened? It didn't make it difficult to watch, but I wanted to know more about these characters. I wanted to know more about who they were. I wanted to see the other things that were happening behind the scenes in this film. Like, honestly, I'll just throw this out here, going a completely different direction. Do a remake, you know, do a film, do a remake, or do a series, a limited run series, and maybe get into a little bit more of the details. Show the other things that they went through, because you know, between the scenes in this film, they're putting on shows, they are doing things at the circus. This isn't all just a short period of time, you know. At least to me, this film took place over X amount of days.
I'd say weeks, because there was even a line where after they got married, the Cleo and Hans, he says, hey, we've been married a week.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a good stretch of time.
But imagine how much more you could connect to the characters too if you saw everything else they went through. Because you know that people were coming and watching them perform, and there were probably people throwing stuff at them, calling them freaks, screaming in terror. I mean, I felt for these characters so very much in the amount of time that we had in the film. You really connect to them. Imagine if they spanned that out and you could connect to them and see what they go through in their day-to-day lives and lead up to the point and the climax of this film. I think it could work as a series as well, just because it would really let you connect to the characters. So
I could see it. But again, who would it be?
That's the real
Brett,
question.
That's
Brett
the big
Ratner. Brett Ratner's
Fuck
number one
him.
choice. They gave him Red Dragon, give him Freaks. Let him go.
It's funny too. You were talking about how they were treated or how they would be treated, and I'm sure they were, or I've heard based on other trivia bits, they were not treated any better behind the scenes either.
Oh,
They had them cut off in separate eating camps and tents so people didn't have to eat
Oh my
and look
God.
at them. That kind of shit right there is just gets under your skin. And that, as I'm sitting there talking, because I was even talking to my wife about this movie because she had never seen it and she was aware of it. Because again, Freak Show, she'd watched that, and we were just having discussions about the pinheads. God damn it! And I just told her, I was like, I told her how I felt about that, and we were even talking about the actress who was playing. I can't remember her name in Freak Show. Do you remember, Lester, the one that played, or what that character's name was that looked like Schlitzie? That's this character's name in the movie.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I feel
I
like
can't
it's
think.
a simple name too.
Her name's like Pepper.
Yeah, Pepper.
Did it?
I even said it last night. God damn it, and I can't even remember. Pepper. Looking at them and little things like that, I don't know, it just bugged the piss out of me thinking of all the shit they went through, and
yeah.
I'm going on.
Supposedly, F. Scott Fitzgerald, the writer, The Great Gatsby, visited the set of Freaks and ate lunch and got sick because of having to deal with the freaks. And then he went on. There was a short story he wrote that had freaks in it, and people say that he was inspired by that experience on the set of Freaks. So,
well, I don't know if I like him anymore.
cancel F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Here we go.
Get
calling
rid of
it now.
Don't ever adapt the goddamn Great Gatsby ever again. We've had enough.
We're done.
By comparison, hearing what you guys have said about the behind the scenes stuff of Freaks, and then the stuff that I've heard about the behind the scenes stuff from Freak Show, two very different worlds. We got lucky enough to meet a lot of the cast members from Freak Show. They have the tall woman. We met her, wonderful lady. We met Ma Petite, which is I believe she holds the world record for being the smallest person
Wow.
on the
I think
planet.
so, yeah.
Oh,
But they got paid just as well as the rest of the cast. The cast absolutely loved them. I guess Jessica Lange, who played like the ringmaster of this circus in Freak Show, who, just so everybody knows, I have a couple older women that are like my crushes. For some reason, Jessica Lange's one of them. Don't ask me why.
for
'cause I
some
really
reason
don't know.
she's beautiful. Forget it.
I mean,
I would still hit that dude. It's okay.
Oh, I
Let
would
me-
elope.
let me put it this way: if you guys ever do watch American Horror Story and you watch, I think it's the Coven season,
Mhm.
she plays a witch in it, and I am just absolutely, yeah, give me that all day. She can curse me all she wants.
Oh, curse your underpants for all the time.
You know it. But I guess she still keeps contact with a lot of them, and Ryan Murphy does. But I mean, it's heavy subject matter. And again, I think this is why this film still holds up today. A lot of people feel like a quote unquote freak in the world. We all have our insecurities. We all have things about ourselves that we wish were different. Some people feel like they don't belong. Some people feel like they are freaks. And some parts of society make them feel that way. And I think this film really just it strikes a chord with people because, again, as I've said, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding redundant here, the real monsters in this film are the regular people. They think they're better than these people just because these people look different than them or these people act different than them. They think they're superior. It's the world we live in. Certain people think that they're better than other people because they look a certain way or they are a certain way, and we're all freaks in our own sense. But my question that I've asked myself after watching this film is, what's so wrong with being a freak?
Beauty is temporary. Even the most beautiful person in the world will only be at the height of their beauty for a short amount of time. So you got to look to other pieces of yourself. What's your inner life like? How beautiful are you on the inside? And that's what I think that this movie is trying to say in a small way. And I've tried to live my life that way, enrich the insides, because as I deteriorate and as this meat suit melts off of my soul, essentially, is my soul still beautiful? So I think that we all need to make our souls beautiful. That's the message of this movie.
I like it. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of that gets lost along the way, or has gotten lost over time, that it was meant to be a love letter to these people. And it didn't go over as well because you have ignorant mindsets, especially back in 1930s. They didn't understand it like Todd Browning did because he grew up, or at least spent a good chunk of his time in the circus. He saw these people, and this was kind of like, hey, what if I could do a movie about that? And just it's a shame that it didn't go over as well as it could have, because the message is good. The message is positive if you pay attention. If you're focused on just, oh God, they're gross, fuck you, and you're just as bad as the two bad characters or villains in this film. I would like to kind of point out a few little details that I thought were amusing, but one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when it's pretty much at the climax. They're in the wagon, and I think this is when Cleo had come in and she was getting ready to give Hans his last bit of poison. And then you had I never caught a name for this particular character, but he was the knife-throwing midget. And again, I can't even say midget, even though they said it. And I said it now, I'm going to get canceled. Christ!
You're done.
Little person.
What was the name of that character? I don't know.
I don't remember. They just called him the knife thrower, I guess. But
Okay.
he's just... She walks in, she looks around the room, and there's about 3 or 4. The half boy is in there, and so is, I don't even catch his name. He was Mo in Beretta. He was the little guy, the other little guy. He's the only one that really had a career after this film.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he went on to have a career. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just sitting in there.
The one that's stamping. Gooble
Yeah.
gobble. One of
Google
us, yeah.
gobble.
Yeah.
You are. Anyway, no, the knife thrower is pretty much sitting there, and she just walks in, and he just pulls up his knife, pops it out, and just so nonchalantly starts stroking it like what? And I just love his look and just how calm he is about it. But he's getting ready to cause some damage.
Oh my God.
I'm sure everyone could kind of piece this together, but if you didn't know, Harry Earls, the guy that played Hans, our main protagonist, he was one of the Lollipop Guild in The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he was actually the one that handed Dorothy the lollipop.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to try and pick him out of a lineup, but I think you could recognize him because he's got a very unique looking face.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things my wife said. She's like, "Is that a child?" And I was like, "No, that is a grown ass man." And she's like, "The hell it is. That is a child." And I was like, I'm telling you, that is a man."
That's the Lollipop Guild member.
Mm-hmm. And I said, and the woman standing beside him, that's his sister, not his wife. And she's like, "Oh my God."
I have to admit, when the film first started and I first saw him, for a second I was like, "Do they have a kid play him?" And then I kind of pieced it together and I was like, "No, never mind. Never mind."
Yep. No. The other one that I want to just briefly mention is the woman who doesn't have any arms, who uses her feet for everything. I wish I could use my feet like that, like to pick up beers, and because sometimes I drop something on the floor and I bend over, I'm like, my back. I just wish I could have my feet be so awesome that I could pick up shit that I drop.
See, I can do that to a point, but not like they can. It's just
not like her.
Yeah, you got to work at it.
Smoking and drinking and like.
I wanted to bring up 2 little tidbits that I know it ages the movie, but I don't care. I just love this time. The line where Venus was confronting Hercules about their plot, and she's like, "I'm going to call the coppers on you." I love that line because I know it was kind of common trope at the time, but it always seemed like it was one of those things that you would hear that was supposed to be in those movies. You never actually heard it. Like I couldn't point to a movie, and now I can.
Now you can. Now you got the line.
Because I can be like, "Yeah, they say it in that movie." She's like, "I'm going to call the coppers on you. The coppers know." And I was like, yes. And then there was an ad that I found that MGM apparently praised itself on this movie being something magnificent before it really got shit canned. So they were going around saying, "Come see the uncensored version. Do we dare tell the real truth on the screen? Do we dare hold the mirror up to nature?" And I love that too, because they were just like, "No, let's capitalize on this shit, even though we're going to cut it later. Let's just do what we can and get our money out of it as fast as we can, and then we'll figure it out later."
Yeah. Still need to publicize.
Little do we know there's a uncensored version of Freaks out there somewhere.
Oh my god!
If only.
Yeah, you never know. It's in some of somebody's grandmother's attic, just sitting there rotting away. You never know.
It's very possible because what was it? I think it was Friday the 13th Part 2. Someone had whipped out, like came out of nowhere, and just said, "Hey, I've got some deleted gore footage or some shit if you want that for your Blu-ray release for Shout." And they were like, "Hell yes." Came out of nowhere. Shit's been around for God knows how long, and this guy just dusted it off and was like, "Here you go." So yeah, there very well could be a 90-minute cut of this movie out there somewhere, hopefully not rotted beyond ever being used again.
Yeah. I feel like that happened to a few movies, like even like Metropolis, I think, had things that showed up many years later, and Nosferatu was thought to be lost, or they burnt most of the fucking the video, and then later on it was repopularized because they had a print or two. So hopefully,
fingers
we
crossed,
can find our Freaks print. Yeah, and then Todd Browning also has another famous lost movie, London After Midnight, and the stills from that are insane, like the way that Lon Chaney looks with his like top hat and crazy eyes. I hope that somebody sometime finds that movie, but they say it was lost in a fire. So
yeah, what the fuck is up with that? That's another thing too. I always keep hearing films get lost in fires, and it's not just here. There was one in Japan, I think, that happened one time, and a whole slew of films got lost.
Well, they're highly flammable, what they used to use to create. So if one catches on fire, it's like a forest fire. Suddenly the whole warehouse is going up, and if they only keep those movies in one space or those prints, they're gone.
Sure.
There was a few years back where there was a film, like a warehouse that had film and like original recordings of music.
Yeah,
like,
some of Nirvana's, I think, master tapes and things like that are gone. Or reportedly, maybe somebody had some copies or duplicates somehow. Yeah, it's sick.
Now, this is completely random, and it has to do with Freaks, but I want to give a shout out to Wallace Ford, because I loved his performance in this film, and he's just, to me, aside from the characters who were more human than the actual quote-unquote humans, he's just a likable character, because throughout the film, he treats everyone the same, and I absolutely adore him for that in this film. And I also love the fact when the bearded lady gives birth, he's so excited. And it actually made me chuckle. He goes in and he's like, "Oh, what is it?" And they go, "It's a little girl." And she's like, "Oh, and she's going to have a beard too." I loved that. And he's such a wholesome character in this film. And I feel like he really brought the movie together, because you have these just nasty people in this film, and not to sound like this guy, but the way they set this film up, the so-called freaks, they're not monsters, but you want to feel like there's somebody on their side in all of this, and he really he shows that. He's like so wholesome with them, and just, "I'm on your side, you guys are the same as me, we are equals," and I respect him for that. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on him as a character.
Yeah, he's the voice of reason in a way for the humans, for the so-called regular people. He actually respects the freaks for what they are and for what they do, not for what they look like. He doesn't judge them.
He cracked me up. The opening scene where you actually get to be introduced to him. Venus is chewing his ass up left and right. He didn't do anything. He's just wiping off his makeup, and she walks away and is done. It takes a beat, and and it's like it suddenly clicks, and he's like, "Hey, wait a minute," and then goes after her. That cracks me up. It's just the timing of it all, I guess, is so good. But yeah, no, he's a solid character in this. He's definitely the heart of everything, trying to keep being the normal guy trying to keep shit together and taking care of everyone else. Like even how he treated, what did I call her? Him, her? Because I think it's a her in the movie, but it's a him in real life. Schlitz, the pinhead. Still don't like saying it, but you know what I mean. He speaks to her and is just like complimentary. Oh, your dress. Oh, how are you? Oh, you're just so lovely. And no one, or a halfway decent person, a lot of people are just going to be like, I'm just going to go stand over here and you can, but no, he takes the time. He tries to make her feel special, and you can see how that means a lot to her. And I kind of like that, that helps humanize them even more and show that you don't have to be hateful. You don't have to be mean. So yeah, no, I definitely like his character and performance. He reminded me a lot of, or at least facially, again, another celebrity looking like celebrity. It took me a minute to think of who he looked like, and it's, God damn it, what's his name? Shea Wiggum. Kinda. I won't say completely.
Who's Shea Wiggum?
Have you seen Perry Mason recently? The new show. He was in that. He was in Vice Principals, the TV show. He was in Kong Skull Island. He was in.
I've seen Vice Principals.
He was the boyfriend that was on the rebound with what's his name's ex-wife? God, I can't even remember his name. I don't know why my brain is like spacing right now. What the fuck is his name? The guy that co-wrote the fucking Halloween shit with
David McBride?
Yes, god damn it. Yeah, his ex-wife in the show, Shea Wiggum, is like the new boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like super cool kind of dude,
right.
man.
Yeah, all right, sure.
Yeah.
But the one of the freaks looks like him?
No, the Frozo.
Yeah.
I
see.
He kind of, because he looked familiar, and I was like, God damn it, who does he look like? And then he's the face that kind of came about. So I won't say spot on. He's not the Bern Gorman, Johnny Eck comparison, but, it's similar enough, I guess.
Just a real quick thing, kind of funny, but to talk about Frozo and everything. When I watched this and the way that he acted with everyone, for some reason, I got this vibe that Andy Griffith had a cousin who went and joined the circus, because that's how he made me feel, like he was relation to Andy Griffith, because he's just so wholesome.
It's a great idea. Spin off. It's in the Andy Griffith universe. That's
I think he
great.
Was on Andy Griffith.
That's
could
gonna
be
make
wrong
me laugh
about that too.
If he's actually on there at some point.
Don't quote me on that. I mean, I sure could look it up, but I think he might have been. I don't know. I don't want to speak to it. I don't want to commit.
And I have no idea. And I just finished my whiskey sour. So
let's just let our imaginations run wild of all the possibilities that an Andy Griffith and Freaks show crossover could make. Oh my God, how beautiful.
Okay, so the Freaks come into town via the wagons.
Yeah.
And then I would assume Barney would be the first one. Andy!
Yeah, imagine Don Knotts running around with the Freaks, and he's like, like tripping over him and shit.
Now, Barney. Now, Barn, you're going to have to do better than that now. Andy, you just don't understand. I'm sorry. We'll get it back off.
Fucking Ron Howard could go swimming, fishing and swimming with them. Oh my God, that's how they discover him. They're by the lake, and he's like, "Dad, I saw this."
The little turtle girl, or she's like swimming in the ponds as she's sitting there fishing. Is like, I caught a big one, Paul.
Now that ain't right, boy.
One of them gets put in jail for the night for some reason. Oh, the possibilities are endless.
Anyway, no, I'm sure that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down.
Oh man,
do you guys have anything else to say about this film?
Go watch it. That's really my biggest recommendation, is if you haven't seen it and you want to see something that's really very interesting and just really deep and frightening. It's got a lot of emotional peaks and valleys. Go see this movie, or rent it, or whatever you can do to find it. And then read up about the behind the scenes, because there's a lot of interesting shit. Todd Browning's career was destroyed in this movie, so give the man his due and check out his art.
Such a shame, too. They got blacklisted over, and they gave him carte blanche to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's MGM that did it.
He made so many movies before that were humongous successes, and this one just, they couldn't handle it, and it fucked his life up. Sucks.
They shouldn't have given him free reign. That's on them.
That tends to happen when you make a statement, though, and a powerful statement. He made an extremely powerful statement about how human we all really are, and they shit-canned him for it. And it's unfortunate because, to me, he didn't get to see how... Because this film is... I feel like this film in present day is a successful film. It's just he's not around anymore to see what this film means to people, and that this film's message is put out. I'm sure he knew when he made it that the message he wanted to convey would be conveyed.
Right.
But it's unfortunate that he's not here to hear masses of people say, your film showed us a lot about society.
Right. I think he was alive. I think the year that it was like replucked from obscurity. I'm just trying to look at the exact year. It was shown at the Venice Film Festival in 1960 or 1961, and he lived to 62. So hopefully he got the news that there was a resurgence of interest in his film. They showed it, and it was received well. And then, obviously you couldn't see the real resurgence, but at least hopefully he knew at the end that people were coming back to his work.
I was going to say, I don't want to hear any excuses that you can't find it. It's on every major streaming platform, unlike a lot of older media. This one is readily available, so it's out there.
There you go.
You can rent it for $4, or you can buy it for $7. You can watch it on Daily Motion for free.
Yeah. Shout out to Daily Motion. Screw YouTube. YouTube's had its day. Let's bury it.
It's not a long watch, and it's an important message. If you don't like it as a horror fan or of dark films, because I would put this in the dark category to a degree, but even if you don't like those things, watch it as a glimpse of society, especially what society was when this film was made.
Hell yeah.
I honestly find all the characters in there, or the freak show characters, fascinating to just wonder. They seem well enough. They seem happy enough. What are their lives like when they're not being gawked at or treated like garbage? I don't know. But if you guys have nothing else, I'll wrap up the show.
I think I'm
I'm good. I'm all freaked out.
All right.
Over here.
Don't forget to mention duck tits.
Oh, duck tits. Ramblers, let us know what you feel about freaks and duck tits. You can do that on Twitter at Horror Ramblings. And if you've got a lot more to say in a tweet's just not going to cut it, send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, you can join our Facebook group, or you can join us in our Ramblers room on Discord. And you can even find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images when we choose to remember to post, because sometimes our memories are not what they used to be. If you're feeling generous, you want to support this show financially, I'm going to tell you to go over to Patreon and look up Yuki and John's Patreon Buffet. That's what I want to do. And go check that out.
Well, thank you. What about your Patreon?
Well, yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But go check out Yuki and John's Patreon Buffet if you haven't already. Granted, you can still get the podcast buffet for free, but you're missing out on so much more. So I highly recommend going over there, checking that out, chucking a buck, and you can get all sorts of great content. There's nice little tiers. And, if you've got 28,000 laying around...
So we finally put up the cancellation buffet. We put up the cancellation the cancellation video. It's under the $28,000 tier. So if you want to spend $28,000 and cancel me and Yuki, the clip is yours.
There you go. See? I mean, if only.
A cheap price to pay.
But what if? I mean, what? I don't know.
If somebody really does it, I'm gonna freak out, because they really probably can twist it in a way to really get us. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Would it really actually be worth it for 14? Well, not even 14. So we would have to split it between the two of us, but then Patreon takes their fee. So in the end, we'll be like $12,000 plus taxes. So in the end, it's probably like $9,000. And to ruin my life over 9,000, I might rethink this thing.
You might want to crack it up a little bit, crank up the price.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd up it a little.
Yeah.
Make it well worth it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you can also go to patreon.com/pencil and paper productions and help us out if you want to. You know, we usually post up some stuff over there. You can review the show in your favorite podcasting app. So go over there and hit the little 5-star thing. I don't understand how it works. I don't use it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, if you happen to be on Spotify, we post up questions and polls. You can let us know what you think over there. And finally, if you want a central hub with any and all things, pencilandpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Go follow John Brennan on Twitter, Instagram. All the links will be down below. And
Thank you so much.
there's all that stuff. All the links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember, guys, look out for duck tits.
One of us. One of us. One of us.
Goober gobble. We accept her.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.